With temperatures falling below -1 degree, even as crowds huddle together in queue for evacuation coaches, there's little warmth to go round. This is Medyka, a Polish town on its border with Ukraine, the busiest crossing point for refugees in cars or on foot. 1.5 million refugees have passed here, desperately fleeing the Russian invasion in Ukraine. What we're seeing now is the humanitarian side of war and conflict. Just behind me, you've got a massive queue of refugees who are hoping to get onto a series of buses and coaches that have been given to them so that they can make their way further into town. There's a vast crowd of predominantly Ukrainian refugees, and you're expecting that because, of course, the war itself is happening in Ukraine, but more than just Ukrainians have been affected by this conflict. And we've not been able at this point to meet refugees of any other background. Away from the foot crossing, there's also the border for vehicles, which is where I find Christian Ugu, the Nigerian ambassador to Poland.
For the past 2 days, I've not seen any Nigerian coming to Poland, and I decided Medyka is the greatest, crossing point for the blacks. So I wanted to cross over to the Ukrainian side, but the Polish people didn't allow me, in spite of my status.
Ugu traveled with 2 other Nigerian diplomats and a driver. But the group were initially turned away at the border because his driver, a Polish national, was not with his passport. So what's the plan for you now here? I'd imagine that arrangements were made before you made this journey to Medyka, only for you to be turned away at the border. What are you planning to do now? What options do you have?
Yes, I've covered over 300 kilometers to come to Medyka, and I must trek because they said they can only allow me if I will use my leg to trek to the border. That is the next option I have.
Instead of walking, the ambassador left his driver behind and, along with 1 other diplomat, returned to the border crossing. I ran after the vehicle and asked if I could join. They agreed. Together, we drove into Ukraine, immediately seeing more refugees pouring into Poland. Soon after, we're stopped at a checkpoint. We turn over our passports and then wait for approval. The ambassador saying he wants to see if any Nigerian nationals are stuck at the Ukraine border. After several minutes, a senior border officer makes communication, expressing concern over how allegations of racism could cause provocation they say they don't want, especially while at war.
Your people, they studied now.
She admits Nigerians are known to come to Ukraine and peacefully study, but the opportunity to leave the diplomatic vehicle and inspect the border does not come. For certain, it's known that hundreds of Nigerian students remain trapped in areas of Ukraine, including Sumy. The federal government says plans are already in place to begin evacuating them. But here in Ukraine, unable to independently verify the presence of Nigerian or African refugees, were diverted back into Poland, where refugees suffering from freezing temperatures and trauma continue to seek protection from a war that has changed life as they know it. Adefemi Akinsanya, Arise News, Medyka, on the Poland-Ukraine border.